Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another Myth or Truth episode. Do you guys look forward for the series? Because I do. I love Myth or Truths. Today, I have some brand new myths or truths that you guys left in the comment section of my videos. I have a whole bunch of them. I will try to record as many as I can today and kind of spread them through multiple episodes because you know me, I take my time and we can be here until tomorrow. And you know, who has time for that? So if you don't see your comment on the screen today, it might actually be in the next episodes. Right, so before we start, today's episode is of course sponsored by rePotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchid. From potting mixes to pots, fertilizers, accessories, and everything in between. And not only for orchids, but also houseplants as well, such as cacti and succulents and others, of course. So I'll link you to their website down below in the description and in the pinned comment. And I will also share with you the products that they offer, which I absolutely adore. Some of them I did use before this collaboration. And this collaboration started like 5 years ago, or 6? Let's say 5, long time ago. With that said, let us start. Let's see, which is the first myth or truth that I have here? All right, I think this is one that I actually didn't get to from the previous bulk. So, myth or truth from Kathy Henderson. If I put Keiki paste on a Phalaenopsis node, will it prematurely lose its present flowers? That is a great myth, because yes, it is a myth. If you guys remember, I did some experiments with Keiki paste, and what I discovered is that yes, we can manipulate, let's say, through plant hormones what orchids do to an extent. Not fully. We can't, or I personally couldn't, fully fool the orchid. So I applied Keiki paste in the cooler months, and what that did was actually give me a lot more secondary spikes than Keikis. And this is because the temperatures were cooler, and in cooler temperatures, Phalaenopsis orchids, the flower shop ones, are triggered into spiking rather than producing vegetative growth, which Keikis are. Now in the summertime, or in the warmer months, when I did the experiment again, I did manage to obtain Keikis, simply because it was warmer. But in none of those instances did I actually get prematurely loss of flowers. In case the orchid is stressed or sick, and it really doesn't have enough energy to hold all of those flowers, yes, it could lose some flowers, but not because necessarily of the Keiki paste, but because of the state of health. So I wouldn't play with Keiki paste if you have a sick orchid, recovering orchid, dehydrated orchid, things of the sorts. As a principle, no matter if you want Keikis or secondary spikes, I would not play with plant hormones on the nodes. Just wait for the orchid to get healthy and then you can experiment away. It's quite fun, actually. Myth or truth from Laurita or Lauritan? I'm not entirely sure. Greetings from South Georgia, USA. Hello. I'm not sure I'm posting this question in the correct place, and you may have addressed it before. Am I safe from thrips and other pests if I keep my orchids indoors and quarantine new orchids in another room of the house? Also, how long is a safe quarantine period? Alrighty, let's start with the first question. It is false, sadly. You're not safe from thrips and other pests if you follow the rules by the book, if you make sure that you quarantine your plants and so on, because these pests don't only enter the grow room with other orchids, they can come through the windows. And not only if you have a garden outside, but generally speaking, pests are everywhere. And not only that, they can come into your house on your clothes or objects you bring. If you have a pet, you can actually bring the pests on the pet's fur. So they will find a way in your house. Are you safer if you quarantine other plants? Yes, I think you absolutely are. If you don't quarantine another plant, you might introduce an entire colony of pests rather than 1 or 2 on your clothes, right? So if we speak in absolutes, no, quarantine is not 100% foolproof, because pests can get in through other ways, but it does help, in my opinion, absolutely. And how long is a safe quarantine period? I would say if you can do it a month, I think you will discover any pest the plant has within that month, and at least 2 weeks, I would say. Typically, you will see pests pretty fast. You will see the signs at least. If you don't see the pest itself, you might see grazing on the leaf, which previously wasn't there. You might actually see sticky spots and not that sap, the sap droplets. That's something else. But you can see sticky spots under the orchid, under the flowers, on the furniture. That is a sign of mealybugs or even scale. So you should look for these signs that will definitely appear in about 2 weeks. I don't think you have to wait like 3 months or something. And I think Maya approves. Next myth or truth from Ana Maria. Cymbidium orchids do prefer smaller pots where they can be a bit tighter, and this will encourage them to grow better. Okay, this is my personal opinion. It is a myth, and it's not only about cymbidiums, it's about everything. In my over 10 years of experience, trust me when I tell you guys, I have not experienced one single orchid feeling better in a tighter pot. The pot has nothing to do with it. The pot can induce some benefits that are easily controllable in many other ways. And I'll give you just one example. When I used to play with Leka and I was doing the semi-hydro experiments, I was using big pots, like big chunky pots. And I didn't have any issues with rotten roots or anything. Furthermore, after a while, after the root system grew, I had issues with dehydration. So the size of the pot in that instance played absolutely no role. Even if they were huge, my orchid was not suffocated, which is the main reason why they say use tinier pots, because bigger pots can retain more water. That is false. It depends what you have inside. Sure, a bigger pot of moss might retain more water than a smaller pot of moss. So, you do kind of need to strike a balance with everything, but certainly you do not have to go for small pots because that's the rule, especially if you have an orchid which is big but doesn't have roots. Maybe it suffered root loss. You don't have to put it in a small pot and then repot it in 3 months again. I would not do that. I would rather just try to make sure that I water in a way where I don't super sogify, is that a word? Super sogify the medium, or use a medium that has both aeration elements such as bark, perlite, whatever you can think of, charcoal. All of these things that don't retain water, they're aerators. And you can blend them with stuff that do retain water, like sphagnum moss, coconut husk that can retain more water, and other media that might be on the market. So if a smaller pot helps you out, that's great. But we cannot say it's because of the smaller pot that the orchid does well, because it's just not true. It's the skill that you will acquire, and don't worry, you'll develop it. Don't you worry, with time and experience, you're gonna know these things. So it's about the skill you acquire in using all of these elements and putting the piece together to create a nice picture from the puzzle. The infinite puzzle we're dealing with, especially at the beginning. I just realized I don't have a co-host. Let me bring someone. There we go. I'm going to bring the Burana Beauty today. Oh my goodness, she smells so good. So good, like roses. So hopefully she's not gonna be very distracting. All right, myth or truth from Jennifer Kenny, sorry. Jenny Kenny sounds cute though. If the newest fan on my Paphiopedilum keeps growing roots way above the medium, the entire plant won't survive because the old fan will die off. This is a longer comment, give me a second to read through. Alright, so being that I do not have experience with exactly your situation, I'm gonna be like, I don't know if it's a myth or a truth. So as you say, I do have experience with a Paphiopedilum orchid which created what I presumed at the time, 10 years ago, I presumed it was a Keiki. Maybe it wasn't, or not a Keiki per se, it was like another growth, very complicated. I didn't have experience back then. I'll link you to that video because I managed to manage somehow. So I had a path that created a growth on top of the existing fan, and I managed to remove it by putting a bit of sphagnum moss and making it root there. What you're saying is correct. The roots will not survive in the air. They do not produce aerial roots unless you have like 100% humidity. So I'm tempted to say that if the bottom part runs out of roots or it has its roots dying off, then you're in trouble. Yeah, you kind of need to separate the top part, the part of the stem. As long as there are roots down in the pot, I think you're okay, but it's a little risky to rely only on them. What you can do is actually wrap sphagnum moss around the place where roots want to grow from the growth you have on top. Wrap sphagnum moss and put a saran wrap around it and keep it moist. And at some point those roots will grow, and then what I would do is cut it and plant it again. Even if it's not like a keiki, Paphs cannot produce keikis, I do believe. Even if it's just a new fan, or if it's part of the same fan, I think this will work out in your benefit. I think you should definitely try this saran wrap situation. I know there are some Paph species which do tend to grow tall and try to put out aerial roots and fail. If you guys have experience with that, let me know, and you know, let's help each other out in the comment section. My experience with that is the one that I will share with you down below if you didn't see it. Jennifer saw it. You know, that's what I think you should do, and if it's myth or truth, I don't know. We're gonna see, I guess, because Paphs are mysterious creatures. Myth or truth from Torin. You can propagate an orchid by cutting off a flower spike and placing it in a humid container. New clones will grow from where the flower buds were located. False. Woo! I'm off the hook on this one. Okay, so that is false. Keikis do not appear from where flower buds were located. Is there a clickbait video that says that? For shame. Let me get a Phalaenopsis and show you what I mean. Alright, so this is a Phalaenopsis, and this is a spent flower. The place where the flower used to be, this flower bud node, is empty now. A keiki will never sprout from here. It is not the place where they sprout. They sprout from the nodes below the first flower. So any of the nodes here. And when we play with keiki paste, this is where we need to apply it. Not here where the buds used to be, or where the flowers used to be. If anything falls from here, it's done. Don't even attempt to play in that area. It's not gonna happen. All of the secondary branches and keikis appear from here. Now, as many of you might know, there is that video that claims you can get 100 orchids from one spike or something like that. Clearly, that is an appealing title, which, you know what? It's sometimes what we gotta do. I don't think I would go that far, but sometimes we gotta put those kind of clickbaity titles because the algorithm will not consider our video and it will just be buried amongst the other videos. Our work pretty much drained. So I can see kind of clickbaity titles. My problem with that idea is that I don't think there is enough energy left in this stem to actually sustain a keiki enough for the keiki to produce roots and sustain itself. When a keiki forms here, the orchid sustains it fully until we separate it and we pot it. That's why we need to wait for the roots to emerge so the keiki can actually live on its own. Otherwise, it will not live. So I thought you were referring to that idea where you cut the flower spike, you put it in damp sphagnum moss or whatever, and little clones will start to appear. I think they will start to appear. My doubt is when it comes to fully developing into a new plant. I don't know if there's enough energy. There is doubt. You weren't saying that. You were saying where the flower buds were located, and that makes this whole sentence absolutely false, because where the flowers used to be, nothing will ever sprout again. Don't mistake it for the tip of the flower spike. That's something else. I'm talking about all of this section where flowers are already there. When the flowers fall in that bud, in that place where they used to be connected to the flower spike, nothing will sprout again from there. Next myth or truth. Can the radiation and LED lights that we use to supplement light to our orchids cause damage to our eyes in the long run? Alright, I'm gonna say this is because I'm not a doctor. If you are concerned, please visit a medical expert, a doctor that deals with the eyes, I don't know how it's called in English. I'm so sorry. So visit the doctor and ask them, and just come with the specifics of your LED tube. And yeah, that's how you're gonna get the most accurate answer. However, in my opinion, I think these lights that I personally have, the Barinas, I don't think they damage eyes because their spectrum doesn't go lower than 400 nanometers. I personally don't think they damage the eyes, but that has been a concern that I used to have as well in the past. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, the answers that I got for myself are good enough for me, theoretically at least. according to the specs, they should not damage eyesight, but hey, in the end, I don't know. And let's address one more for today, which I think we addressed a little bit last time, but this has a bit of a twist. How about, can you grow orchids in rocks, like limestone? We addressed this last time. Yes, you can absolutely grow orchids in rocks, and as a general rule that I set, let's say for myself, and I find valid, you can grow epiphytic orchids in anything that provides adequate moisture, adequate aeration, and is not chemically or physically damaging. Here's the twist though, limestone. Limestone, I do not believe is adequate because it has high amounts of calcium, if I'm not mistaken. And especially if we're gonna use fertilizers, which many of them tend to acidify the water, we can start to dissolve that limestone and release quite big amounts of calcium. So I would say this is false. I don't think we should grow orchids in limestone, but as I was saying, anything that follows those 3 rules is acceptable. Limestone does not follow those rules in my opinion. It is chemically unsafe. Alrighty, so that is about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you found this useful and interesting. Keep the myths coming. Thank you rePotme for sponsoring yet another episode. And with that said, I'll see you guys in our next episode. Take care and have a great day. Bye.